coming to join me for a little gentle yoga. I am going to start reclining. Now I have this small pillow that's kind of long, and so I'm going to put this underneath my back. It's long enough to support my head. If you don't have a pillow like this, but you have a couple of throw pillows, or if you have a blanket, you can take a blanket and fold it into kind of a similar long shape. You want this to go down the length of your spine so that there's a little bit of an elevation. You can elevate your head a little higher by putting another pillow or a block underneath the end so it lifts up a little bit if you want to be a little more on a slope, or for whatever reason it might be nice to have your head elevated. There's a variety of reasons that might be true. I'm just going to let mine lie down on the lay on the floor here, and then I'm going to lie down on the floor. Okay, lay down, whatever the right word is. So I like the prop to start kind of around where my rib cage ends. So the bottom of the ribs is about where I like the prop to live. If it's too far down for me, my low back doesn't have an opportunity to kind of create a neutral transition to the point where my pelvis touches the floor. So you just want to play with that a little bit. Oh, it's a little too chilly. I'm going to turn that off for now. But with the support under the upper back, it lets me open my shoulders up a little bit, and I can let the arms rest and create a little bit more space here. It also restabilizes the shoulder. So if you spend some time on your computer, or for whatever reason with your shoulder kind of rolling forward, it's nice to give yourself a chance for the shoulders to lay back or relax back. So this helps release tension from the secondary breathing muscle and shoulder stabilizer, which is the pec minor. You may even, if you take the arms out wider, feel that in the larger chest muscle, the pec major. Now, I have my legs in a position called constructive rest, which is a little like a wide, softer bridge pose setup. So that's one option. Second option would be to have the legs just out straight. That feels pretty good to me today. But a third option, should you wish to have one more, is to put the feet together so you have kind of a diamond or a little butterfly shape with the legs. So any of those will do. Make little adjustments as you need to make everything just right. And then just take nice deep breaths. As my body settles, I might make little teeny tiny, like just adjusting the shoulder blades a little closer together, or adjusting the position of the arm, but mostly getting relatively still. And concentrating on a nice, deep, smooth breath. What you doing up there? Getting into stuff. There might be environmental distractions at your house as well. And then once you catch yourself getting distracted, just come on back and breathe. We're going to stay for about another minute or so. going to take a couple more deep breaths. Potentially letting go with a rather deep sigh. And then we're going to take whatever's underneath the back out. So you can adjust the legs as you like. Ugh. This is my favorite part, actually, of having something under my back, is the coming out, bringing it out. Because, oh, it feels so nice. So quite often there's a kind of sense of, like, my back kind of spreading out nice and soft and wide on the floor. Sometimes it feels really nice to kind of reach a little bit. So what you're doing is you're pulling the shoulder blades slightly to the outside, and then just rock right on that space between the shoulder blades. You can kind of press the little inside spine of the shoulder blade a little bit as you rock onto it. Oh, it just feels nice. There's a lot of muscle in the upper back that tends to, at least for me, I think it's true probably for a lot of us, we tend to carry tension and some tightness there, especially in regards to stress. So there might be some crashing or other things that happen up here. As long as it doesn't fall on my head, I think we'll be all right. But just a heads up, if you hear something crash, I'm pretty sure it's just this shenanigans that are going on right here. So once you've done that little bit of rocking to your satisfaction, you might want to do like some little windshield wipers with the legs as well. We're going to bring the feet to the floor so that the feet are in this constructive rest position. So if you were already there, then cool, you're still there. But if for whatever reason you need to adjust the legs, do that. So this is going to be our starting point. We're going to do a little bit of work for the hip flexor, and then it also involves a little bit of core work, which is lovely. So strengthening the abdominal muscles helps take a little bit of the load away from the hip flexor. Quite often we use our hip flexors in certain instances, not all things, but in certain movements that really the abdominals could do part of that job. So a little bit of abdominal work, a little bit of hip flexor lengthening. I may have to intervene, but in any case, so we're going to do one leg at a time. I'm going to start with the right leg, which is the one that's closer to the camera here, closer to you in my way of thinking. But I'm going to pick my toes up and glide as best I can that right leg all the way out straight. Now for the first 3 rounds, the toes point straight up and we're lengthening through the hip. Okay. Then we're going to bring that knee toward the navel and then curl up toward that knee and then let it heel to the ground, glide out, toes pointing straight up, open up the front of that hip as big as you can, and then curl in. Now, the reason my hands are behind my head is so I won't pull with my neck. So you're going to press your head back into your hands. One more time, pushing the head back and curling in. Okay, now as I glide the leg out, I'm going to turn the toes right at the end towards the right. Then I'm going to bring my knee towards my right elbow. Heel to the ground, toes pointing up to start with, glide out, stretch through that leg, rotate that femur, and then bring it in. One more time, toes straight up. Oh, glide that leg to straight, turn, and then bring that knee to your elbow. Now we're going to do the opposite. So toes pointing straight up to begin with. Then we're going to internally rotate a little. It's not going to be as big a movement, and we'll add a little twist to this abdominal work. So toes straight up, stretch through the front of the hip, turn the toes in, curl up towards that leg. One more time, toes straight up as you glide, turn the toes in, curling in. Now one more time, you can let go of your head. We're going to stretch the leg all the way out, toes pointing straight up, foot flexed, reach through the front of your hip, and then you're just going to rotate the leg from the outside to the inside a few times. On Saturday, my ferrets were nowhere to be found. They were all sleeping. And everyone who took the Saturday class was like, where were the ferrets? We didn't get any ferret action. We're making up for it this morning. So if you like to see all kinds of ferrety shenanigans, more will be happening. All right, so we're gonna draw this right leg right back in, as glide it as best you can. You can lift it a little bit if as needed. We're just gonna put it right back in and set it beside the left. And then just notice and feel. There might be a sensation difference between the right side and the left side. Sometimes if I put my thumb right here where the hip flexor goes over the front of the hip, I can feel a slight difference. Like my right thumb feels like it sinks in a little deeper than my left thumb, so I can feel that that muscle's relaxed back into my hip. It's not pushing forward. So that feels nice. It's subtle, but there's a sense that my low back is a little closer to the floor on the right side. I don't know that if I measured it, it would be measurably that different. But just notice what's true. So for you. So we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So again, the hands are behind the head. Again, I'm going to press my head into my hands so that this curling action is really just coming from the abdominals. I want to avoid pulling from the neck, which is what that looks like, okay? And then the rest is all hip flexor action. So picking the toes up, gliding to the degree possible, as smooth a movement as you can do. You're going to stretch through the front of that hip, toes pointing straight up, come straight down the center, curl up to meet it. Heel to the ground, glide it out nice and long. Oh, toes pointing straight up. We're going to curl it in. And then one more time, just like that. This is one of my favorite hip flexor releases right now. Okay, so now we're going to do the three where we come to the outside elbow. So the toes are straight up as you glide, then we turn them to the left, bring the knee up toward the left elbow. Okay, toes straight up, glide, rotate, coming in. Straight up, glide, rotate one more time, come into that elbow. All right, so this is the twist, so we're going to do an internal rotation a little bit here. So strong stretch with the toes in neutral, then turn in and curl up. And this is the one where the abs are doing a little bit of a twist, so toes straight up, turn them in, curl in. We're trying to bring that leg across the body just a little bit. One more time, curl in. Now, head can relax. Let go. With your hands, we're going to go straight up with the toes to begin with. Stretch through the front of the hip. Once you've got that sensation, rotate from outside to inside a few times. Notice how these little subtle muscles right here on the top of the thigh kick on to adjust for those movements. And then glide as smoothly as you can. You might have to go up over the edge of your mat a little bit, but see if you can get both legs back into that constructive rest. And then just pause. And then you can test and just see, does it feel like that muscle dropped back? And it's really just there's a little sense of a tendon almost right across the front of the hip right there. You may or may not notice a difference. Some days I do, some days it's not as dramatic. All right, so that's our hip flexor work. We're gonna leave the legs in this position for now and do a little bit of work for our shoulders while we're here. So you're going to reach the arms down nice and firm. So I am stretching through my arms the entire range of motion. We're going to see, and you might want to first just check and make sure you're not going to run into anything if you reach your arms over your head. Okay? So if you're going to run into the furniture or something, just adjust your body. So reach down like you're going to try to grab your ankles with both hands. Pinkies are down, thumbs are up for now. And then as you lift your arms, you're going to keep stretching through the arms, keep stretching, keep stretching. Now, what I like about this is the lever's kind of long with the whole arm, and you can really feel where the biceps, triceps, and the shoulders start to adjust through your range of motion. Keep reaching as you come all the way back. Feel the muscles kick on and release to kind of help you do that range of motion. Then what we can notice too is, are there any muscles that feel kind of tender or a little weaker as we're moving through this range of motion? Like one side might be a little stronger, or one muscle might be a little tender that we can then take care of a little differently. Oh, keep stretching. We're going to do this one more time all together. So coming back back to the center, and then when you get there, you can just redo or do this one more time, whole thing. Reach down, arms come up, keep reaching, keep reaching, keep reaching, all the way around, and then keep reaching all the way back. When you get to the bottom, we're gonna just let the arms relax. You can give them a little movement. Just let them kind of flail out a little bit. Okay, so that kind of tunes us in to the whole shoulder and the range of motion. Now we're gonna take away a little bit of the leverage and just reach the arms straight up and grab your elbows. Okay, now when I did that, my right arm wound up closer to my face than my left arm. That's usually the way it works out, although occasionally it works out on the opposite. So I'm going to pull on my right arm. So I'm going to grab with this left hand, and I'm going to pull my right arm across. I'm letting my right shoulder blade get as heavy as I can. So I'm trying to take this shoulder blade to the ground, and I'm trying to take the arm across the body. And as I do that, there's going to be a point where I'm meeting resistance right there in the center. And that's the interesting part. Now you can lower the arm a little closer to the navel or bring it up a little closer to your nose. Just kind of find the right spot for your arm or the spot that is accommodating given other body parts. Okay, 2 more breaths. Now I'm going to let that arm go for now. We're going to keep using the same arm. So I'm still going to use my right arm. I just need to scoot a little bit to my right and then roll onto the left side. Okay. Now, make sure that you can reach your arm all the way over your head without running into furniture. You may have to make adjustments. And then you might want some head support. So I'm going to take my pillow that I had earlier, hello there, and put that underneath my head. Okay, here we go. So the right arm reaches about level with the right shoulder. We're going to take it over the head. At the point where we're level here with the chest muscle, this is the point where the nerves are the most likely to get pinched. So be kind with that last little section. Reach out, let your shoulder go with you as you stretch through the range of motion, and then bring it back softly. You can even come straight back. So you can go around and then just straight back from there. And one more like that. Okay, now once we're all the way back, we're going to keep working with this arm, but we're going to roll onto the belly to do it. So this is a tricky stretch, and if there's numbness or tingling in your arm, you're definitely going to change it up. So I'm going to take my right arm, reach it out a little lower than my shoulder, and I've got my palm facing up. Then I'm going to add some support under my head, because I'm going to take my left leg over the top and roll towards that right arm. Now this is going to get the front of my shoulder rather than the back, okay? So I'm adjusting, here let me see if this helps. I'm adjusting my arm without a lot of weight on it, a little lower, a little farther out, so I can feel the stretch toward my chest. Now you can take this arm all the way over, you can leave your leg positioned so that the foot's on the floor. I'm just going to stretch this leg out, and then I'm going to use my hand to just hold myself right at the point where I feel a stretch. Now, we all have a different range of motion. We're all built a little differently. Some of us are going to find that we could lay on our back on top of our arm. That's an extreme range of motion, but I've seen it. So I know that it exists. And then others of us are going to be much more kind of almost laying on our chest. And then there's the whole range of motion in between. So as long as you're feeling something that happens kind of front of the shoulder area, maybe chest muscle, but there's no numbness or tingling in your fingers, we're going to be okay. If there's numbness and tingling in your fingers, back off, roll away from your arm, reposition it, and see if you can get a little bit better sense. Now we're going to take about 3 more deep breaths here. Alrighty, we're gonna come out of this pose, and then we're gonna rinse the shoulder. You guys may not be able to see what's going on, but essentially I have a stack of bolsters, and there is a small furry creature standing on the top of the stack, like a little bit triumphantly, if you ask me. That's what I would say. Now, while we're here on the belly, let's do some cobra. So we're gonna stretch out through the legs, and the cobra is just, you're using your back muscles to lift yourself, which might be that much, right? There might just be the tiniest little bit, or maybe all it is you're opening up the hip. So whatever you can lift with your back muscles and not by pushing with the arms, that's what we're aiming for. Don't overdo things with the neck. Lift into cobra, broaden across the chest, come on back. So press the legs down, lift into cobra, broaden across the chest, come on back down. Last one. Lift into cobra, broaden. All right, now we have to go all the way back over onto our back to do the other side. So I'm just gonna take my left leg back, and hopefully I'll be positioned okay. So I've got my feet in constructive rest. I'm gonna bring my arms up, grab hold of my left upper arm. I don't know if you guys remember the beginning of this journey, but here's where it started. So we're gonna pull the arm to the left, or rather, I'm pulling my left arm to my right, and then I'm gonna let this left shoulder blade get a little heavier. Oh, and essentially I'm just creating the resistance. Shoulder blades trying to go to the floor, arms trying to go all the way across. And whew, it feels nice. Just a nice little sense of opening there in the back of my arm. And shoulder. So 2 more breaths. I'm going to release the arm, but I'm rolling to the side. So again, I need to test out the range of motion. I'm going to give myself a little head support. And then just make sure I'm not going to run into the furniture. Okay, so arm held about shoulder height, reach through the arm, come over your head all the way around, and then just sweep it on back. Or come straight across, almost like you're closing a little oyster shell. Okay? Reach over the head, find the point where you're like, that's enough. And then you get softer. Reach. And come back. Reach. And come back. We got 2 more to go. Okay, now, once we're back, we're going to do that same thing, but we're going to flip it so we can do the front of the shoulder, okay? So, coming back to the belly, keeping my head support, I'm going to reach my arm out, palm up, roll onto the side here, and then adjust the shoulder. Your arm may wind up all the way down close to your hip. You might, again, have the foot flat here, or you can straighten out the leg. The arm can go over your back. I'm going to use mine as a little tripod, just so that I can lean forward slightly. I don't need as much of a backward movement to feel it. So nice deep breaths, yogis. Again, any numbness in your hand means we're pinching nerves. Lower the arm. You can bend at the elbow if that's helpful. going to take a nice deep inhale. As you exhale, we're coming out of there. We're going to give our shoulder a little movement. Okay, while we're here, we're going to do that little sequence of cobras again. Start with your hands quite high, way up high under the top of the shoulder. Reach back, lift, broaden through the shoulders. Okay, when you come back down, slide your hands back an inch. Legs are firm, lift, broaden through the shoulders. So hands back an inch, broaden through the shoulders. 2 more, hands back a bit, broaden through the shoulders. And then the last one, hands down, broaden through the shoulders. Oh, and then we're going to come on back. All right, I've got fantastic news, yogis. One more time, we're going to roll back onto our back. This time, you could, if you have one, use a yoga strap. So if you don't have a strap, you can use anything that will, generally speaking, extend the length of your arm. My yoga strap has clearly been commandeered by certain small and furry creatures that will not mind their own business. So I'm not sure where it is. So I will use something that can be used instead, like a scarf. Okay. I'll be right back. Somewhere over here I have, oh, there we go, a little dish towel. Okay. So you just need something that will let your arm extend. One day, I will find that yoga strap again. Okay, but in the meantime, I'm just going to use this guy. So anything that gives you a little bit of length, I'll hold on to both ends. I'm going to put my foot in the loop that I just made. Now, before we get that far, just have it nearby. You can have support under your head, and you can also put a little bit of support under the leg that we're not going to be doing right away. So I'll just set that right there. Stretch my left leg out over it. Bring the right knee in, and if you can, hug onto that right leg. And then we're going to spin the foot in circles. Ooh. And then go the other direction. And then point and flex through your foot. It's nice to get the ankle joint a little bit of work. All right, so either holding onto your big toe and extending your leg if you've got that kind of range of motion, grabbing your yoga strap, and or whatever you're using in place of a yoga strap today. Where I'm going to bring my toes down, push my heel up to get a little more of my calf. If I point my toes a little bit, a little less shows up in my calf muscles. I can rotate the leg a little in or a little out to change the stretch. So we're going to stay for about a minute or so longer. About a minute and a half for each of these stretches. These are areas that are pretty dense, connective tissue wise. There's multiple muscles overlapping. In the case of the hamstrings, generally 3. In the inner thigh, there's a lot of overlapping muscle. It's kind of wild how much space is taken up there by muscles. And then as we do a little twist, you can use the strap or not. So when you get lots of layers of muscle that overlap, whether it's the outer hip, the back of the thigh, the top of the thigh, the inner thigh, those are bulkier areas, the shoulders to some degree as well, but definitely through the hips. A little bit longer hold helps actually do some longer term help. This connective tissue is quite resistant to stretching. And muscle tissue is mostly like a water balloon. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to gently kind of encourage additional muscle cell chain, to develop. That can happen we can also just get a little bit more fluid moving, and the fluid takes a little while to get stimulated, so that's why we hang out here for a little bit. All right, so we're going to take 2 more big breaths. And now the leg's going out to the side. Now, if you want a little bit of extra support, you can put a block or a pillow underneath the leg so that you get the stretch right where it begins. You can also just hold the leg in position. And if your body allows for it and the leg goes all the way to the ground, then the ground will support you. I like to have a little block because I don't need that much room before I feel these muscles in my inner thigh stretching. And because the inner thigh is a delicate, it's right there next to the groins, and right at this inner part of the knee can be a sensitive area. And so I like to be a little bit conservative here with my stretchiness. Alright, yogis, so we're going to stay for about 30 more seconds, just hanging out with the stretch. Breathing, and again, if you need to relax it or let it go or come out a little early, you can. Again, you can slightly rotate the leg, bend the knee a little to give yourself room to back away. So we're going to take 2 more breaths. Now this is the point where you can keep the strap or you can lose it. So we're going to bring the leg back to the center, grab it with the other hand, and then go over into a twist. So I'm going to let go of the strap because I have some space limitations, and I'm going to just bring my legs over, roll my upper back to the ground, and then just let myself enjoy the twist that way. So I'm still getting that sensation of stretching through the outer hip and through the chest muscle. So allow yourself to find the right way for you. Take a nice deep breaths. So I'm going to take 2 more breaths here. And then we'll bring ourselves all the way back. So either with the strap or without, we're going to bring the knee back to the center. You can let go at this point with the strap. And then, I like to stretch both legs out and do a little sense of a release, a little movement. I'm going to angle myself just slightly on a diagonal. Hopefully you'll still be able to see everything. That way, as I work with my left leg, I'll have a little bigger space. Okay, when you're ready, and if you're not ready yet, then just wait until you are. I'm going to put support underneath my right knee, just so there's a little bit of softness there. And then, I'm going to hug the left leg in, spin that left foot in circles. And then go the other direction. And then we're going to point and flex the foot. when you're ready, you'll take your strap, makeshift or otherwise, and hold onto your foot. Again, you might hold on with the actual, hold on to your big toe if you like. Okay, so give yourself enough room that you can feel the stretch in the back of the leg. Again, pulling the toes down a little bit more, centers a little more sensation in the calf muscles, pointing the toes a little less. You can rotate the leg a bit, and we'll stay for a bit. I like to bend and straighten the leg from time to time, just to sort of try to find the spot where it's just at the edge of the stretch, so I just feel it. Again, the thing that we're most after is creating some fluid in between the layers of connective tissue, in between the layers of fascia that live between these muscles. Because when we do, then they slide around each other a little bit easier, and it feels like we're looser, like we're more flexible. The biggest change that we're making is that we are hydrating. And the way that that works is that we kind of stimulate that hydration with a little bit of this resistance. So it doesn't need to be a lot of sensation to be effective. You just have to stay a while. Take a nice big breath, and then take the leg out to the side. And again, if you like a little support, you can add that in. Be kind to your poor little inner thigh. There's a lot of tender attachment areas. Take 2 more breaths. And then we're going to turn this guy into the twist. And again, I'm going to go ahead and just twist and let go of the strap. But you can use the strap if you like. just a wee bit longer, about 5 more breaths or so. So when you're ready, you're going to take the leg back, whether you still have the strap on or not. And then if you are still using your strap, you can go ahead and release that. Give your legs a little rinse. All right, we're going to eventually come to a seated position, but if you'd like, you can do some little back massages, or you can do some little cat-cow kind of things first, and then join me in a seated position. We're down there for a long time, yogis. Some transition might be nice. Okay, so I find it really helpful when doing many seated yoga poses to take a blanket and sit on it. And when you sit on a blanket, for this purpose, you want to sit right on the edge. So if you get onto the blanket and then kind of slide to the edge, I find that most helpful. It kind of puts the pelvis in a position where the spine is a little more neutral, especially if you tend to kind of round through the lower back. This can be very helpful. And it lets the knees often hang out a little lower than the hips. Okay, so we're gonna do a little bit of work for the neck. And you wanna be kind to your neck. If when you take your head over to one side, there's some tenderness on the bottom side, you might only tilt the head just a tiny bit, okay? So we're all a little different, so we're just gonna do what's right for your particular situation. So I'm gonna make sure my spine is neutral so it doesn't feel like I'm being pulled or tugged in any one direction. And essentially I just kind of go back and forth side to side till it feels like the top of my head is pretty much right over the bowl of the pelvis. As close as it feels like to me. And then drop the chin. And we're gonna roll slightly to the side so that I feel the stretch right here in the front part of the neck, and then back to the center. We're gonna do one side at a time. So up and over. So I went to the left, so I'm just gonna keep doing that. And then my right side is stretching. Okay, back to the center, up and over. And each time I'm just feeling out that range of motion. So we're gonna go up and over one more time, and as soon as you feel this stretch here through the side, that's where we're gonna stop. We're gonna let that shoulder on this side drop. Sometimes the shoulder will lift up to try to help. See if you can keep that space there. And then we're aiming for a sensation that goes from the collarbone up to just behind the ear where the skull, there's a little kind of protrusion here on the skull where this muscle attaches. So that's what we're taking, collarbone away from that spot. So we're gonna reach out through that arm, draw the collarbone out and down, and you can put the hand down on the floor if it's available. So most of the tugging is coming from the collarbone, not from the head. Sometimes it helps to reach out or back. Keep this other side relaxed as best you can. Now I find these muscles, because they're not as dense, there's not as many layers, they're a little bit more accommodating to these kinds of stretches than my hips. I feel them soften a little sooner, but if you feel the softening, you can gently see if there's a little more space to take up. We're gonna do about 4 more breaths here. I'm gonna let my shoulder come towards the middle, so I'm gonna bring that collarbone back in. And then once my arm is relaxed, I'm gonna let my head fall forward to the diagonal just a little bit, because now I'm gonna work a muscle that lifts my shoulder blade up towards my skull. So I'm going to pull the shoulder blade down. And again, I just position the arm so that you have access to the shoulder blade. And the head is mostly hanging out. If you need a little extra support, you can lift the head up and even hold on to it with your other hand. So every now and then I let it go, and then I go back in, usually near the beginning of holding it. So I'm going to do 3 more breaths here, because I can feel that I've reached the edge of the range of motion I have available to me. Everything has gotten as soft as it feels like it's going to get. All right, so bringing the arm back, releasing the shoulders a little bit. I'm going to just kind of really slowly and gently let my head come back to neutral. Again, kind of leaning forward and back a bit, just finding that position where it feels like my head floats above my pelvis. It doesn't feel good right away, but after a few moments, it feels nice to jiggle the shoulders and move the head a little. All right, so then just perceive, like, has a change occurred on one side versus the other of the neck? For me, it feels like the shoulder's a little bit lower. Probably not really, but it feels that way. So I'm inclined, it feels pleasant. I'm inclined to do the other side. So again, getting the spine nice and neutral, I'm gonna drop my head. For me, it feels nice to roll to the side. And I'm just gonna go back and forth over this one side now, opposite side. Just feeling out, where do I notice that stretch first? And I can kind of go a little past the edge of my range of motion initially, but eventually I want to tune in to that just middle spot. Okay, so I'm going to go really slow until I feel, yep, there's where it starts. So I feel that stretch beginning. Again, I'm going to keep this shoulder relaxed, but I'm going to reach this collarbone out and down. If I feel muscle over here starting to tense up, I'm going to try to let it go. We have all these reciprocal muscle relationships, and so quite often you'll feel things kind of kick on. There's a motorcycle outside the door. I don't know what's going on there. Out in the parking lot, it's quite loud. Pardon me. Take a couple more deep breaths. Okay, one more. So now I'm going to just kind of bring that shoulder back. I'm not totally letting go yet because I'm going to roll my head forward until I start to feel things coming around to the back. And again, I just want to start to notice this muscle that lifts my shoulder blade up toward the back of my head. And then I'm going to draw the shoulder blade down. And even the tiniest little hint of stretch is enough. Take care of yourself. There are so many nerves that go through our neck. Our neck is basically like, you know, like all the wires in your house come to the junction box, you know, where all the switches are, all the little flips. The fuse box. That's what it used to be called. I don't know if it's still called a fuse box or not. But that's sort of what your neck is. It's like a spot where all the wires come together to get connected to your main power source, your brain. Oh, goodness. So taking 2 more breaths here. Maybe 3 if it's feeling like it's still kind of nice. And we're going to Bring the arms back, make sure the shoulders are relaxed. And then I'm gonna, oh, so gently let my head kind of float back into neutral. All right, so hopefully, having given our neck a little love, we're gonna feel a little bit balanced. We did some shoulder work, we did some hips, we did a little head. We're gonna do a little pranayama before we do some relaxation. So today's pranayama is called Nadi Shodhana, and it's usually translated as alternate nostril breathing. Now, you can take your two peace sign fingers of your dominant hand. I'm right-handed, so I'm going to use my right hand. And put those two peace sign fingers right in the middle of your forehead, and then you'll use your ring finger and your thumb. Now, because I'm right-handed, my thumb is on my right nostril, my ring finger's on my left. Before I do anything else, I'm going to ensure that I can breathe through both of my nostrils, because this is, after all, a breath practice, not a suffocation practice. So if you cannot breathe through one of your nostrils, and my right one is not as open as my left, so when I do that side, I'm going to just barely touch my left nostril closed so that a little bit of air can still sneak in from there, so that I don't have to strain to breathe. You can just have a resting position where you're not actually closing the nostril, but you're feeling the sensation of the fingertips or the thumb tip on the nostril. That's gonna still give us that kind of sense of balancing, okay? So take a big breath, let go with that. And then you're gonna inhale through your left nostril, or, you know, putting your attention there. Switch over to the right side and exhale. Inhale through the right. Switch over and exhale through the left. Inhale left. Switch over and exhale right. When it's time, inhale. Switch over, exhale to the left. Inhale. Switch over and exhale to the right. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, but we switch every time it's time to exhale. So when it's time to exhale again, you'll switch. And we're going to do 4 more rounds on our own. Try to just let the breath come to you, don't strain. I've got one more round, and we're going to end when it's time to, when you go back to your left nostril and exhale the next time. And then just kind of seeing where the breath brought you, we're going to slide into a final relaxation, which could be Shavasana, or could be legs up the wall, or legs over the couch if you wanted. take a moment just to notice the breath. So without moving too much, just feel how the breath is already moving you. Now take a breath so deep you can feel it to your tiptoes. Let go with a big sigh. And then as you're ready, you can start to wiggle and stretch and move through your fingers and toes and wrists and ankles. Then turn it into a full body stretch. And then when you're ready, you can sit up. Now, if you're at your house and if you want to do Shavasana for the next 10 minutes, I'm not going to stop you. But what I will say is I'll bid you a good morning. So let's do that with a big breath. Nice big inhale. Namaste, yogis. Enjoy the rest of your day. Hopefully I'll see you again soon.